Well, once again, we have been graced with probably the best episode of Tokyo Ghoul Re, or Tokyo Ghoul in general to date. This, once again, continues a trend of what I've been talking about in these recent episodes, to where the anime is on track, it's taking the proper path to actually adapt the manga. And actually, with this episode, the animation and art wasn't really that bad. It wasn't, like, amazing, but I mean, it wasn't that bad compared to previous episodes. So, I'm just gonna say, job well done on the people that worked on this episode. And actually, the content that was cut from this episode, there was pretty much nothing that was cut. The two things that were skipped, there's one that's irrelevant, not really important at all, and then there's another scene that was skipped, which could be potentially added back later on. So it's not gone for good yet if they follow with what they've been doing in these recent episodes, kind of rearranging things and eventually adding it back in, like what they did with Mutsuki and how she was training with knives and stuff. So yeah, one of the big scenes that was removed was to where Tsukiyama was supposed to go into Cafe Ri, and he was supposed to be able to talk with Toka and all of them, and it was like a big scene. And it was basically where Tsukiyama came to terms with how Heise is a different person, and he should allow him to be happy and do his own thing. But at the same time, though, there was a scene in this episode that kind of had the exact same point, so you still get the exact same emotions, except you just don't have the Cafe Ri scene, so, like I said, it's not relatively, like, crazy important, it just expands upon certain characters. Now, another scene that was removed was the stuff with Naki. Now, just in case you don't remember, Naki is the new leader of the White Suits, and Naki, you know, he actually got to meet with Dr. Kano. Now, if you're an anime only, most likely you're not going to have any idea who Dr. Kano is, because Dr. Kano's entire character and characterization in the anime has never really been shown. I mean, even in Season 1, and then Route A, which that was completely cut now. It's official now, which I'll get into that in a moment. But I mean, Dr. Kano's character, it's pretty much where he's irrelevant. He is nowhere to be seen in the anime adaptation of Tokyo Ghoul, and even Tokyo Ghoul Re. He was supposed to appear in this episode, but he wasn't at all. There was supposed to be a scene with him and Naki, and that scene overall, though, it isn't relatively important. It doesn't really go anywhere, so I gotta say that I understand why it was skipped for this episode. Knowing what I know about the characters and stuff, I feel like skipping that Dr. Kano scene with Naki, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, so that's no problem whatsoever. The big problem I have, though, is that Dr. Kano, at this point, he's irrelevant. He has no purpose so far in the series, and so when Dr. Kano finally starts to kind of be main central, like, focus for Tokyo Ghoul Re, I feel like many are gonna be like, huh? Like, what's going on? Who is this character? But at the same time, it's very apparent that Tokyo Ghoul Re's anime is not meant for anime onlys, which that is what I want to get into, a perfect segue. So, ever since Tokyo Ghoul restarted the anime, many anime-onlys have been constantly debating and arguing with manga readers or people that are watching the anime, saying that this is a true continuation of Route A, Tokyo Ghoul Route A. Many have argued, even with me, in the comments, on social media. I've seen people argue with me saying, like, no, this is following the events of Route A. But now, it is very clear from this episode that it is definitely confirmed now that Studio Clown, they are not trying to adapt a continuation off of Route A. They are truly following the events of the manga of Tokyo Ghoul. So once again, if you have not read the manga of Tokyo Ghoul, at least part 1, then you definitely need to actually read it now, because you're not going to understand the events to come. Because with the whole sequence with Tsukiyama in this episode, when he was thinking back to brighter days, and you see Kaneki, Hinami, Banjo, and all of that, you get to see how they're interacting, they're having fun. And it's a very quick scene, but that scene is what they skipped. They skipped in Route A. For instance, Route A was completely anime original and deviated from the manga. So with showing that scene, it lets us know that Kaneki never joined Ogiri Tree, he never was working with the Ghoul side, he actually was doing his own thing throughout, you know, what Part 1 Tokyo Ghoul was like. So yeah, once again, that scene confirms Route A, it doesn't exist anymore. They are not following it. I mean, it was already obvious with the, you know, missing person Hide posters from episode 1, but people still speculated that Hide might still be alive in some way. So because of that, now with that flashback, it is officially confirmed Route A didn't happen. Didn't happen at all. So, once again, I'm just going to reinstate the fact, if you have not read the manga, you gotta read it now. That's literally all I could say now, because they are obviously not going to adapt ever a season 2 or a second half of Tokyo Ghoul. You're never going to get to see that. So, yeah. One scene in this episode that transcended the manga, I did the job a lot better, was definitely the Kana scene at the end of the episode, where you see how Eto's just sitting there looking at Kana, as Kana's just sitting there, you know, twitching, and just straight up being tortured. You're like, what the hell? And the entire scene, it's jarring, it's creepy, the music, the ticking of the clocks, it's a really phenomenal scene. I gotta say, if there's one thing I've noticed that the certain people are working on these recent episodes are doing right, it's definitely the psychological scenes. Even if the art animation isn't always up to par and amazing, at the very least, they do put a lot of emphasis on the messed up scenes that are very psychological and mess with your mind. I mean, the whole Nutcracker stuff with last week's episode, to the Uri stuff where, you know, he was just going psychotic and wanting a promotion, and then, you know, this episode where we get to see how at the end, you know, Kana's getting all messed up and tortured by Eto, and Eto's like doing some biblical symbolism. So, I mean, just seeing stuff like that, they definitely know how to nail those moments. So I am looking forward to a certain Black Reaper moment because of the way they've handled certain scenes. It's very apparent she was offering, you know, an apple, which was from the Tree of Knowledge. She was talking about it, and it's like, you know, why did God put the Tree of Knowledge inside the Garden of Eden? Why? I mean, isn't it like just saying to eat the apple, just having it there as temptation in the middle of the garden? And Eto was constantly questioning something like that, and eventually she's like, you know, I'll give you an apple. And pretty much what Eto was saying in that moment, she was like, I'm giving you an apple, which is knowledge, for you can know more about the world, for you can understand yourself a whole lot more. And then Eto started talking to Kana about, you know, how she could potentially understand how she's very selfish, she's possessive of Tsukiyama, and that's kind of what she was trying to make very clear to her, make her wake up and understand how she truly is as a person. She wanted Heisei Sasaki out of the picture for she could have Tsukiyama all to herself. She was being very possessive of him, and that's what Eto is trying to pretty much point out to her. And at the end of the episode, where you see how Kana's all stitched up, the eye stitched up, she's on the ground, you can even see some blood effect on the chest, to where Eto straight up actually inserted a rib inside of her, which is, you know, reference to the Adam and Eve story of how, you know, Eve was made by Adam's rib. So that's kind of what you see from that scene as well. So biblical symbolism is definitely there. It was in the manga, and I'm actually very surprised of how well done that scene was done in the anime. I didn't think they would actually cover something like that, so just like props to the animators, and I'm going to assume that this episode was once again outsourced. So the outsourced company that is working on this episode, job well done. You're doing some good work, even if, you know, it's probably inconsistent with art and animation. Doing a really good job when it comes to scenes like that. Let's talk about Eto's Kagane for a second, okay? For some reason, when I was reading the manga, I always pictured Eto's Kagane as one solid color, like, you know, red, purple, you know, different color, like just one solid color. I never pictured Eto's Kagane to be a variety of colors, and that's what really blew me away by watching this episode, because we've actually never got to see a colored illustration of Eto's Kagane, because, you know, manga is black and white, you can't really see in any Eto cover that has been on the volumes, you don't really get to see her Kagane at all. That's not the main point of it. So, seeing Eto's Kagane for the first time in the anime, it really stunned me. Now, at the same time, obviously, when it comes to the anime, they do get their colors of certain characters off. I mean, with the whole stuff, or situation with Toka's hair color, how it's purple instead of blue. But I'm gonna assume that the colors to Eto's Kagane is actually depicted right, because knowing what I know from the manga, and how Kaganes are, I'm gonna assume that was very intentional, and that was a very nice way to showcase something, or hint at something, in the future of the series. Manga readers know what I'm talking about when it comes to the different colors of, you know, Eto's Kagane, and I'm just gonna say, that surprised me. Very subtle foreshadowing. That is some very subtle foreshadowing. So Shirazu is going through a lot of, character development and characterization. We get to see the reason why he's so traumatized by Nutcracker, why he doesn't want to use her as a Quinque, why he just is so insistent on not using her, or why he doesn't want to fight right now, is because of what happened in his past. We get to see a flashback with him and his sister. And his sister was a normal girl, and one day when, he was talking with her, she's like, I have something wrong with my eye, it's very itchy, and you see this little, like, wart thing underneath her eye, and at first glance, when you see something like that, you would assume it's, like, cancer or something, that's what you would think, but eventually, you see how this growth comes out of her face, and it's like a cognate-like structure similar to a ghoul, that's just literally coming out of her face, and you can see how she's bedridden, and this is the drive to why Shirazu is a part of CCG. He wants money to be able to help out his sister. Now, I don't think that scene was properly clarified right, so I want to kind of clarify for you anime onlys that, are caught up with the manga, but, you haven't read ahead. Basically, Shirazu's sister has ROS, which is, oversecretion of RC cells, and basically she had an oversaturation of them to where she now started to form a cognate-like structure, which is kind of like a cancerous tumor growing out of her. And because of this, the treatment to be able to help her out is very expensive, at the very least to keep her alive. And at this time, Shirazu obviously doesn't have a lot of money, which is why he went through the operation to become a QS to be able to help out his sister. He wanted the money to be able to help his sister and eventually allow it to where she could be a normal person once again. So that's the entire point. Why he's so traumatized right now by Nutcracker is because his sister was someone that's like, I want to be beautiful, I want to be a princess, while she was bedridden, and Nutcracker, in her final words before she died, she's like, I want to be beautiful, and she acted very human. She also reminded Shirazu of his own sister, his objective, his goal that he's been working for. So he realized, like, he's technically killing people that are very similar to his sister, and he realized, like, holy crap, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing this, like, I'm doing this for money, but am I doing the right thing? Ending these people when they just want to, do something very similar to how my sister is. So yeah, that is the issue with Shirazu right now, and I really like the way that was done in, the series, in the manga, and I also like how it was done in the anime. Now, to kind of clarify about Shirazu's haircut, why his hair's cut, I guess it's kind of similar to me now that I think about it. I got a Shirazu haircut, huh? But anyway, Shirazu's haircut, what that symbolizes is change. Now, depending on how long you've been with Tokyo Ghoul, if you're up to date with the manga, then you most likely know what the meaning of Shirazu's haircut is. Or if you've read a lot of manga, or if you watch a lot of anime and you've seen characters get their haircut, then also you most likely know what it means, the meaning behind it. But to clarify if you don't, basically when a character in an anime or manga gets their haircut, it symbolizes that they want to change, that they want to be a completely new person. Cutting your hair in Japan has that type of weight. And so when you see a character cut their hair short or whatever, a new hairstyle, it means they want to take a new path. They want to start a new life, or they want to make a complete change to themselves. And so Shirazu cutting his hair lets us know that he's trying to progress forward as a squad leader, and also help out his squad, and also be able to help out his sister, and move on past what happened to Nutcracker. So that's the significance of the haircut. It's not just a random design change to make it easy on Ishida to draw his character when he was doing the manga. It was just for his character showing that he is growing as a person. So, yeah. Anyways, let's talk about Heise for a second. So Heise, obviously, as time goes on, more and more things are starting to build up to where he wants to know the truth. He's curious about his past, his connections to certain individuals that he has forgotten about. And you can see where he starts to try to find out more about the eye patch ghoul, because as we know, he wanted to dress up as a ghoul to be able to investigate the different wards. And, since he donned his old mask, Kaneki Kin's mask, everybody started recognizing him, like, oh, you're scary, oh no, it's the eye patch ghoul. Now, to kind of clarify this, if you are unaware, anime onlys, if you've, you're caught up, just to remind you, basically, in the past, when Kaneki was traveling with Hinami, Banjo, Tsukiyama, and all that, he was a fiend. Like, he was a man that went around and just started taking different ghoul groups out, devouring them, and that's how eventually he developed a Kakuja, which was Centipede. And that is why ghouls fear him, is because he was a savage, and he would just eat people just to get stronger, to get more powerful, and he continued to press forward. That's why many ghouls fear him, and why they recognize him, is because of what he did in the past. And that is why they just ran away from him. So yeah, that's why Kaneki or Sasaki decided to try to find out more about Eye Patch and to figure out what really happened to, let's say, Almond. Now, apparently, what is stated in the records is that Almond died in a fight. Like, he died in active duty, and Kaneki believes that he is the one that killed Almond. And that is the main revelation for this episode right now, and it's really interesting because you know how Akira is. She has a deep connection with Almond. She loves Almond. It's very apparent at the end of Tokyo Ghoul Part 1 that she's in love with the man, and so seeing how she is actually helping out Sasaki, you know that has to be very painful for her, to be able to do something like that and set aside her grudge against someone that probably killed the person she loved. So Kijima as a character, I just want to state that he's not meant to be likable, okay? He is a very heinous individual. What he did in this episode really goes to show that, how heinous he really can be. And he's not meant to be a guy that you're supposed to like, oh, this amazing character, and, you know, I like him, I want him to continue to stay alive or whatever. You're not supposed to like him. The way Ishida wrote his character, you're supposed to detest him. But at the same time, though, you gotta understand from a different POV that the reason why Kijima acts like he does is because of the circumstances with his life, what happened to him in Tokyo Ghoul Jail. And that is why he seems so despicable, why he does so many heinous things, is because of what happened within Tokyo Ghoul Jail. But even then, though, that doesn't give him an excuse to be able to do all the heinous stuff he did throughout this episode. So he's supposed to be irredeemable, he's supposed to be heinous, but at the same time, though, you feel bad for him, you feel pity for him because of what he had to go through, why he acts like he does when you get the full story. So there's a lot of Tsukiyama moments throughout this episode, which makes a lot of sense since this is Tsukiyama's arc. It's a Tsukiyama extermination arc, the family of Tsukiyamas. And Tsukiyama encounters Sasaki in this episode and has a little quick chat. And with, you know, Sasaki's like, I don't know, like, I don't want to give up my life. That's pretty much what he says. He doesn't want to, you know, let this dreamlike state with his new family just disappear. Tsukiyama realized something. He realized that he didn't want to upset Kaneki and throw him back into the harsh world that he was once in, and that is why he walked away, and you saw inside of his eye to where Sasaki just disappeared, and he's like, I don't know anymore. He's like, I don't know what I should say, and he walked off. And the reason why is because he didn't want to be selfish. He didn't want to think about his own happiness first over Kaneki's. He wanted Kaneki to be happy, and that's why he didn't want to say anything. Because if it would have been, let's say, the Tsukiyama from last episode, he would have straight up said something. But then he realized that how much he deeply does care about Kaneki. He doesn't want the man to suffer. He doesn't think of him like food anymore. He thinks of him like a friend. And he doesn't want the man to, you know, be unhappy anymore. Because he realized what Kaneki did for all of them in the past, and what he sacrificed to make them happy. So that's why Tsukiyama is willing to sacrifice a little bit of his own happiness to help out Kaneki. So that's character development. So also, Tsukiyama, his family, his father, makes a very drastic decision. He makes it to where Tsukiyama passes out and tells Matsube to basically, you know, take him somewhere. Take him to the building, the skyscraper, which has an escape route. And he is forced to pretty much carry the burden of his family. His entire family, everybody that was servants underneath the Tsukiyama family, the ghouls and everybody, they are all those little threads are coming undone. CCG is wiping them out one by one, and the Tsukiyama family is pretty much no more. And so, Tsukiyama now has to understand that he has to carry the weight and everybody's burdens, their deaths, and all that on his shoulders because he is the new head of the family. And when he was thinking about Kaneki, he realized what Kaneki had to go through, what he sacrificed, or what he had to carry on his shoulders when he was protecting all of them, when he decided to charge in to protect Enteku at the end of Tokyo Ghoul Part 1. And that's why he noticed or could understand Kaneki in that moment. So it's a very powerful scene. He realizes that he cannot run away from the truth, and he decides to march forward and tries to, you know, carry on his family's name. Because if he dies, then his entire family line dies. As long as he lives, his family could start over once again. He can continue to press forward. And it just shows a lot of honor and respect that, you know, the entirety of, you know, Tsukiyama's family has for him, but also the servants as well. How they care about him so much that they're willing to sacrifice themselves to keep him safe. And I mean, let's talk about Tsukiyama's father for a second. The way the man was able to just, you know, quickly just knock his son out and then just, you know, walk out like a gentleman. He's like, you know, we are gentlemen. You know, we want to live a normal life to the very end. And you saw the man just allowed himself to get arrested. He didn't want to fight back. He didn't want to be a savage. He didn't fight back like a ghoul. He just went down like a gentleman. He's like, you know, here you go, arrest me. And that's pretty much what all the servants did in that moment. Basically allowed themselves to get arrested for, you know, Tsukiyama could get away, and also just to go down in peace to where none of them will be killed right then on the spot. So it's a really I guess sad scene, just seeing the way it was done, but I gotta say, the anime did it justice. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about this week's episode of Tokyo Ghoul Re? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Did you hate it? Be honest in the comments below. I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or not, wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. Chibi out.